The trial of the eco-extremist group Avalanche. Terrorists conspired with Mutai against Midgard. Your guilt is undeniable. Your punishment, death.
Kevin, or Brick Ninja, and today we're going to take a look at my Airbuster Mech. This was actually built a few months ago, but I finally had some time to do a video, break it down, make some instructions, all that fun stuff. Yes, I do have instructions available. Link is in the description below, but let's take a look at this mech here. This is from Final Fantasy VII, primarily based off of the design from the remake from 2020, but obviously it's similar in overall shape and design from the original one from 1997. But I actually have done a Airbuster mech before, kind of. So a couple of years ago, there was the Rebel Lug Vin Week contest, and I participated in that. And one of the challenges was to mix Star Wars with another theme. I chose Final Fantasy for that other theme, and I created the Timebuster mech. And this was a lot of fun to work on. I loved doing the whole thing, the kind of Death Star style hangar area with some of the Shinra Power Electric Company logos and other design aesthetics. But when you focus in on the Timebuster itself, that was a lot of fun and really interesting to work on. It was a process of trying to balance the original Final Fantasy mech design with elements from TIE Fighters and Imperial designs to make it recognizable in both aspects, where you could look at it and say, yes, that's an Imperial TIE design of some form, or yes, that is the Airbuster mech from Final Fantasy. And it was interesting to try to balance both of those, but I also wanted to come back and do my own build that was accurate to Final Fantasy VII on its own and wasn't a mixture of the two themes. So we're going to take a quick look at the Airbuster mech. First off, this mech was a prototype that was developed and designed by the Shinra Power Electric Company. It was put into action prematurely to help defeat members of Avalanche as they were attacking Mako Reactor number 5, and ultimately the mech was destroyed in the combat fight between the mech and Cloud, Barrett, and Tifa. So we're going to start from the base and kind of work our way up, going through some of the techniques or fun little details. It starts with a clear base to represent the hovering mechanism that the mech has. And then at the very bottom here, we have this tire. I really liked using this as the base. It's got this large, basically tire inflated section at the very bottom where it hovers. And this was a nice way to do it smooth, still have that kind of rubber texture to it that would be accurate to the game as well. Then we move up to the kind of curved dome on the base. We got the guns here in the front, we got a couple of things on the side, and then the guns in the back. Going up to the middle, we've got the gears, just a larger gear, and then a slightly smaller gear, and then a larger gear. And I felt like that worked really well for the mechanism in the middle that helps it turn and angle and stuff like that there. And then I've got a Technic axle that goes up through, connects into the body, but allows this whole thing to rotate there at the waist. And then we come up to the front here. The Airbuster has this kind of dome door that can open up and shoot a beam out of it, but really to kind of get the right size, I ended up doing the 4x4 trans black dome, but then putting a Technic tire on top of it to kind of make it look a little bit smaller. And that tire is actually not attached to anything, but it's held in place by the tiles that come up for kind of the armor on the stomach, and then the upper chest / collarbone area armor pieces. Those 4 pieces just kind of sit right over that tire and hold it in place, and it can slightly move, but pretty much it's there. It doesn't move. It's pretty good, pretty solid. I was happy with how that came out. And then on the sides, we've got some fun details, some little angled pieces of more armor and chunks there. On the back, you come up and you have the exhaust here, and you've got some of the tubes coming off. These ones here can be fully posable. They're connected on ball joints, which is great because you'll see these at a bunch of different angles, angling back and at the sides and stuff like that there, depending upon what's happening during the fight. These grenade tubes are slightly angles it out in a similar way that you would do a brick bending technique, but it's nice because they're so long that you can just ever so slightly angle that piece up against the other ones, and they're long enough that you still get a nice good angle that kind of spaces them out at the top. The arms were a lot of fun to work on, also a little bit frustrating. The arms actually, I think, were fairly simple. It was the shoulder pads that I spent a lot of time working on. I redesigned these probably 3 or 4 times. I don't think I took photos the first couple of times, but here are a couple of previous renditions of the shoulder pads. The first one just was simply too small. The second one I feel like is a little bit better. They're beefier, they're a little bit taller, but it still just kind of looks weird and awkward. But then eventually I decided to go with brick built. It was a little bit of a challenge because I was using the turquoise, and there just is some limitations as far as what you can do, or what parts you have available, and therefore what you can do. But I'm actually really happy with how these turned out. They're nice, big, and bulky. I was able to get like the vents on there, and they have a nice, good amount of the turquoise in there and the gray stripes. I just was pretty happy with how that all came to be. The head was another spot that I had to redesign multiple times. It's just really small compared to the rest of the mech, and so I build it, and each time I would redesign it, I try to make it just a little bit smaller, a little bit smaller, a little bit smaller. It took a while. Pretty happy with that one there. Overall, I really like the mech. The arms can go up and down here at the shoulders, and then the elbows, you got full articulation there, and the wrists and the fingers, and obviously it spins at the waist. So while this is not structurally sound enough to like use to be played with, you know, I wouldn't give it to a kid and expect it to survive, but it is got some good posability and some fun action that you can do with it, so I think it makes a great display piece in that regard there. And that was one of the things that I kind of wanted to do with this when I originally built it. My goal was to just do the mech, but then at the last second I decided to do the whole scene. I really wanted to have that fully immersive feel and the dynamic lighting and some good fun action. So I ended up building the walkway and the side buildings and everything. All of the rest of that's been torn apart, but I do believe this works well as a display piece on its own. And because it is so self-contained, it's a smaller build than what I normally do, I thought this would be a great opportunity to try to make some instructions. So I have torn this apart, built it digitally, made instructions, and those are available on the Rebel Lug instruction store. Like I said, I have got a link in the description down below. If you pick up the instructions, you get obviously a download for the instructions themselves. You get a list of parts that can be very easily imported to Bricklinks for a want list, so you can see what you have, what you need to get, do an auto buy, however you want to do that, but it's got a full parts list. And then there also is a digital download for a placard, UCS style placard sticker, so you could print that off, design and build up your own little plaque stand, and then slap that onto one of the 8x16 tiles if you want. But anyways, so you get that placard for free. You get the parts list, and then you get the instructions themselves. The build has 373 pieces, and the instructions is 125 pages. It goes through very detailed, step-by-step, how to build the whole thing. And yeah, so if you are interested in that, great, you can check that out. And then we are going to wrap this up with a speed build, or time-lapse build of the mech itself. So you can stick around and watch that. But until next time, Brick Ninja out.